This is CAM project number 1, and this video is going to be covering how to create simulations. So once you have your work set up and you've created machining operations, you can do a simulation. And to me, that's really helpful to see exactly what the program is going to be doing, how it's doing it, and if there are any areas that you do need to fix, address, so on and so forth. Now, I do have some options here. Now, this is a pretty simple piece of work that I'm doing, but if I had many operations or even multiple setups, then I can simulate all of those, one of those, or any work setup that I have independently. So if you're just trying to focus on one area, that can actually be pretty useful. If I wanted to just simulate the contour, which once I click on, I can see the toolpath here. I could right click and click the simulate button. And here I have some options as far as the simulation itself. And on the bottom is a play button and some buttons here that are going to allow you to navigate that. So if I click play, I'm moving a little fast. Here's probably what I had on my last setup. But you can see the whole operation done. I'll play that again, a little bit slower. This is exactly what the machine's going to be doing via the code written by the computer. You can see it puts the tabs in, comes up. That's what you get. And then that is the very basics of the simulation tab. Now, that was without me changing any of the options here. And there are times, especially you have things that are a little bit more complex, where you do want to change things. Now, if you do notice, well, this isn't the best one to show it. I'm going to close this one. I'm going to do the entire work setup simulation here. Now, here is one issue or problem that we could have, and there is a way to fix it. Um, right now, you can see the letters, and that is not very accurate when it comes to real life. But what I can do is I can hide the model itself, and then when I play, we can see what it cuts out. And this is, I think, a little bit more of an accurate representation of what you would actually see, right, in real life, especially. Now, this is moving a bit quick, but um, what I'm looking for here specifically is the details, right? And sometimes if there are errors, you will see um, that it tells you there's an error or that there are some issues with where it cuts and how it cuts. A couple things that are worth noting here is that the areas, the corners here, um, are pretty rounded. A normal N would be a much more sharp corner. But with the settings of our adaptive clearing operation, this is essentially the minimum radius that the program will cut. Now I can go back in there and change the minimum radius, and I can try that a couple times and see if I like it. But your two options are either to change the radius or to do another operation with a finer tool, maybe a 1/16th or something like that. You really just have to do what works best for you. I do recommend trying it out, though. There's no better learning tool than by trying some of these different things and seeing what works best in different places. And that will undoubtedly make you a little bit more skilled at setting up these operations. Um, Sometimes the tool holder itself kind of gets in the way. Move a little bit slower here. If I'm looking at real fine detail, this tool holder could actually be a little bit annoying. So what I can do is, one, I can make it solid, but I can also take the tool holder out. You can see here there are some options as far as what you actually see. I could go down to just the flutes of the cutter, and that gives me a better idea, a little bit less obstructed, especially if we were doing some fine detail work. I can take out the toolpath to simplify it a little bit. There are some options too if I want part of it. The material itself, there's some options where if the green doesn't really suit you, then there might be some other models that do. I'm trying to remember which one I've used in the past that I actually really liked. There we go. I think that mirrors the look of wood a little bit more, and some people might prefer this look. The green, you actually see contrast a little bit better, but personal preference all the way. And as you can see here, I can color the material itself, the operation, the tool, the compensation. There's a lot of features. You just have to see what works best for you. Some people just may feel the default is the way to go, and some people might feel different. This bar here on the bottom, let's move down to this. This is your speed bar. So I can go really fast, especially if I have a long operation I'm trying to skip to. If I have multiple operations, I can skip with this button and go to the very end of the toolpath, or I can drag the cursor anywhere I want and start and stop with the pause button. So there's actually a lot of tools when it comes to this simulation. And I do find it very helpful to simulate and make sure I have the toolpath that I'm looking for before I cut. That is absolutely a really good practice that you want to develop. There are softwares that's all they do is simulate machines and toolpaths, and this one is a fairly decent one, and it's integrated into Fusion, so that makes it, if you ask me, even a little bit more valuable and easy to use. You can find out some other information and statistics here. I believe it will tell you the machining time as well, which that's a pretty good indication to tell you if your feeds and speeds are pretty good, or if there might be a problem. If your machine time for a project like this were excessively long, I've seen people struggle with why their programs are taking so long. Well, it all has to do with speeds and feeds. So that might be a pretty good indicator and something that you should check. And it even tells you the linear distance that you're covering, the operations, tool changes, the stuff that could be helpful if you know where to look for it. That is how to do simulations with Fusion 360. And like anything, I always recommend make sure you explore some of the options that you have. Toolpaths are usually something I like to see, but when I run simulations, I like to get it as close to real life as I can. So take out all the extra stuff, leave nothing but the tool in the stock, and see how it works. It's just, a lot of personal preference there. So the next video will cover how to post-process and get your G-code, but you guys are almost there.